Decline and social decay on America's West Coast. In Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, and Los Angeles, homelessness is up and so is crime over pre-pandemic levels. So why is it happening? What can we do about it? Conservative journalist Jason Rantz is a Seattle radio talk show host, author of his first book, What's Killing America? Inside the radical left's tragic destruction of our cities. Jason, it's good to have you with us. So leftists will say things aren't as bad in these cities as conservatives say, but if you look at statistics, for just Seattle and Portland, they seem pretty bad. Why is this happening in these big West Coast cities?
Well, it's not just happening in West Coast cities, and that's the problem. This isn't Vegas. What happens here doesn't stay here, and it starts to spread. And we've seen this crime surge all across the country. But the good news is in all of this is that you can point directly to policy and strategies that have been implemented by what I deem the radical left. I don't view this as a Democrat versus Republican issue. I view this as an extremist problem. And unfortunately, too many cities, too many residents of these cities have relinquished a whole lot of power to radicals to dictate the criminal justice system. And during the Black Lives Matter rallies and riots, what did we hear from them? They were actually upfront about their intentions. They wanted to dismantle systems of oppression. They believe that every institution that we have in this country is a system of oppression because it was based on white supremacy. And thus, they started to dismantle it. They started with defunding the police. They changed a bunch of laws in some states, including here in Washington state, where now police can't, for example, get into a vehicular pursuit unless there is a reasonable suspicion of a violent felony. So all those other crimes like driving cars through storefronts, stealing what they can, and then driving in another stolen vehicle, well, even if the police were to get there, they wouldn't be able to chase.
And on top of that, I mean, lax drug laws are a problem. And last month, the University of Washington study found fentanyl and methamphetamine smoke and residue present on public transit vehicles. So tell us more about the health risk, not only to transit drivers, but people using public transport in greater Seattle and King County. Why is it happening? Why is it allowed?
Well, let's be clear. They tell us that there's no health risks associated with this whatsoever over at Seattle and King County Public Health, as hard as that is to believe. And even the way you presented it, let's go into the details. 100% of the air that was sampled had meth smoke. 100%. 98% of the samples that were taken on surfaces had meth on it. That's how dire it is. And it's because we have legalized drugs in Washington state and in Oregon. The study actually looked at metro in both Seattle area and Portland. And statewide, from Oregon's position, they voted on something called Measure 110, which legalized personal possession and use of all illicit drugs. And in Washington state, thanks to a decision by the Supreme Court, they invalidated our felony possession law. Now, harm reduction is effectively trying to mitigate the risks of illicit drug abuse. So we'll give you a clean needle so you're not spreading bloodborne diseases. We'll give you a fentanyl pipe so you're not smoking from something with bacteria on it. Now, on paper, it sounds like it's compassionate because they're basically arguing that we're going to do this, we're going to mitigate the risks as we push people into treatment, except they don't push anyone into treatment. There's no treatment component in the majority of these cases because they find that kind of thing to be stigmatizing, too judgmental of the drug user. And ultimately, they say that we're going to go to where they are, and when they're ready, we'll be there. Except they're not going to be ready because they're not hitting rock bottom, because we're getting in the way of them hitting rock bottom by literally making it easier than it ought to be an addict, particularly when they're homeless. So all we're seeing are more and more bodies, the result of this horrible policy. But people don't recognize that it's going on. And that's a big reason why I wrote What's Killing America, so that we can connect the dots to policy decisions that are being made.
So what can be done about it then, Jason? An election's coming up next month. It seems voters in those cities keep electing leftist leaders who perpetuate the same tired, dysfunctional policies. So what do you think?
I think that more and more people are waking up to the reality in these cities, and certainly people in the suburbs are waking up because it's going into their communities. And one thing that they can do is actually understand the language that's used on the left. Now, the only police that the left seem to like are word police, and they are very good at commandeering the language. They tell us what words mean now. They've redefined certain words. They have taken total control. And as long as you can see through that, you're going to start making better decisions. We have ceded so much power to the radical left for too long. And we're on the right side of this. And again, most people don't view this as inherently Democrat versus Republican. They view it as right versus wrong, logical versus illogical. And as long as we can understand that there are more people who are part of the silent majority, all we have to do is make them a little bit louder. As long as we understand that, we're going to be able to win these battles.
Okay, the book is What's Killing America Inside the Radical Left's Tragic Destruction of Our Cities. Jason Rantz, we appreciate your sharing your thoughts and your insights. We look forward to hearing more from you on KTTH 770 AM, 94.5 FM in Seattle. God bless you.
Thank you so much.